Hello, I'm Judy Stiles. Thank you for joining us today on Newsmakers. We hear a lot about agencies in our community working together to help serve others, and today we're going to find out about two who are actually merging their services and what it means for our community and especially some of the youngsters in our area. Community Support Services and Cerebral Palsy in the area. Joining me, Jhan Hurn and Brad Baker. Thank you very much for being here today.
Nice to be here.
I guess it was in August we heard about an announcement that two agencies are going to come together. So let's backtrack a little bit as far as what was announced at that time. Basic information.
Go ahead, Jhan.
Oh, all right. At that time, we announced that Cerebral Palsy Center of TriCounty and Community Support Services would merge together effective January 1st. And by doing that, we're taking two very two programs that are doing very similar things, that serving the same individuals, and we'll be able to merge those together and provide a very comprehensive program. Great.
So similar roles, but you have unique aspects in each area, tying it together.
Well, that's just it. We weren't ever competing, but we worked and collaborated for a number of years before. So this is a very natural transition.
Let's give a little bit of history and background. Some of our viewers have said, well, I've heard of both organizations, but let's give a little bit of background. I know when we say Cerebral Palsy, you've been around a long time. Yes,
the CP Center started out actually in Neosho and has moved around into a variety of locations, but currently is located in Webb City. Has been serving kids from age birth to 6 for the past 60 years. Wow. And so they've been around a long time. The origination of the CP Center was parents that had children with special needs that didn't have the special services here in our area available to them. So they started comparing notes to see if they could bring someone to the area to provide those services. And over the course of time, we were able to bring some of those specialists in-house and create a center so that the parents could have a place where their children were taken care of.
So it sounds like it was really a grassroots organization.
Very much so. We just had a recent board meeting as we prepared for this merger that's coming up. And some of our board members who have served for over 40 years on the board were sharing about those early days and how it truly was just a group of concerned parents and a leader that stepped forward to help find the resources necessary to take care of these special needs.
Now, Community Support Services, we've heard that name for a number of years, and so explain if someone says, what do you do? How do you give them that definition, that sidewalk definition?
Well, we're a pup compared to Cerebral Palsy Center. We are celebrating our 40th anniversary this year. So between the two of us, we have over 100 years of services to the community. We started out in 1978. Being a part of the Jasper County Board. And at that time there was only the Cerebral Palsy Center and the Joplin Workshop available. So for services we ended up starting some group homes, and then we started other community-based services. In the early 2000s we expanded that to multi-counties, and we rounded up being a part of the First Steps redesign in Missouri. And First Steps was served 0 to 3 with significant delays. So what we did was we started with those children. We worked at that time with the Cerebral Palsy Center, and then we've expanded that, but our needs are growing. In just the same service area that the Cerebral Palsy Center serves, which is Jasper, Newton, McDonald counties, there are at least, we get about 300 referrals a year. Wow. So that's a tremendous need that we find for that. All total, we serve over 500 children in a 10-county area here in Southwest Missouri in just our First Steps program alone.
So a lot of children being served by your organizations, working separately and also together on many things.
Well, one thing unique about it, and I come from the business background, so I had to learn about how these services are provided. They actually asked me to join the CP Center as a numbers guy to look at the books and to help provide some guidance there. But as I learned about the services provided, one thing that really struck me was that the CP Center was designed to catch those kids that kind of slipped through the system because they didn't qualify necessarily for First Steps and all these other programs. We've got some great programs out there to take care of them, but that being said, there's still some certain programs that just the kids didn't fit the criteria for, and the CP Center was there to pick up that area and help that need.
Great. So each of you have those ways that you can help out. Now you're going to be, together. So let's talk a little bit about the merger and what this means. You have a facility, will be the same facility, and people are saying, well, what are we talking about in terms of buildings and places?
Well, there will be no services interrupted. The staff will still be the same. Will be the same location. It'll be still the same tremendous service that's been provided, for these years.
So for the customer, the client, the families, basically continuing as you're doing.
Exactly.
And it's actually an ad, again, like I said, each of our organizations are familiar with the type of services we focus in on for those unmet needs, if you will, and for first steps. But now as we combine that, we can compare notes and find even better ways to provide those services in a more efficient manner sometimes, and even in a greater amount of services than we've provided in the past.
With the rich history of both organizations, have you seen a lot of changes over the years? New programs come along, new approaches for doing things.
Well, that's I'm glad you brought that up, because when we talk about change, everything changes, but there's one thing that never changed, and from the first time we started talking about merging, was that we sat down together and we said the children come first.
So this is for the children.
And this is for the children, and that we never wavered on that in any way in terms of our planning and developing of the services and programs that we're going to do. But the Cerebral Palsy Center, we talk about, well, there won't be any change. They've always changed and adapted to make sure that they met the needs of the individuals that they're serving. And that's what we will continue to do, is continue to do whatever it takes to make those supports possible for those children.
Great. So at the CP Center, you've had a lot of developments over the years in the history that you've had.
I mean, if you could think back, we're here in an education institution.
Right.
Back when the CP Center started, special education was, I'm not even sure it was a phrase that was coined and used in our school systems here locally. Now we have special education departments that meet special needs of our children in the public education. Even with that overlay, a lot of the special education programs in the schools are only half-day programs. Once again, we have services available at the CP Center, and we have school districts around the area actually busing their children in for the other half day to be able to receive services beyond even what the public schools are able to provide.
So that region you described, basically, we say the southwest corner of the state here, you're providing that additional services for families, and most importantly, probably with those children.
We can do that, plus the children that they do have, that's first steps, get the therapies that they're needing, and they're able to expand that, because our therapists not only work with the child, but they work with the caregiver along that, so that child gets not just an hour of therapy, but they get many hours of therapy as a result.
So when they go home or go back, they're continuing.
Their caregiver, their teacher, their parents, they all learn how to provide that speech therapy, that physical therapy for that child. So it works out very well.
Great. Well, someone who's watching might have a question. Well, how do the children come to your agency in the first place for assistance? Is there a common path, or a way that someone shows up with a child? How does that work as far as the service, saying we need some services?
Many of them will be referred by our First Steps program, or they'll be referred by the school district. They'll also be referred by doctors. Word of mouth sometimes is the way.
Parents and grandparents will occasionally ask our director, Christy Graham, has shared stories at our board meeting about how a parent or grandparents come up and said, my child is 2 years old and not speaking yet. Is that something we should be concerned about?
Right.
And have a conversation about that. And so it's just a warmth of people once they find out about the center and services or a CSS, starting to ask questions and then getting guided to the right resources.
And it sounds like it's really individual for each child too. That there's no, blanket. Here's what we do for you. You have dedicated staff and workers who are going to work with Jhan or Sue or whatever the child may be, and what they need.
Well, that's a very good point, because it all is very individualized in terms of the needs of what each person wants, each child wants.
Jan, you might expand a little bit on how First Steps has a team approach to look at a child's needs.
Sure.
Well, thank you. The First Steps program is designed so that a parent or a grandparent may do a referral. We get many referrals from parents as teachers, but we'll answer that within 24 hours. We'll make contact back in. we'll set up a meeting. We'll determine eligibility for what the developmental delays are, and we'll do an assessment. Once that's done, then we bring together a team of professionals that work with the family and with the child, and with the with other caregivers. They all become a part of that team.
So when you say team of professionals, what type of professionals are we talking
It
about?
might be a physical therapist, just a special instructor, might be a speech therapist. We actually have 24 different disciplines within First Steps.
That's a lot of specialties.
That
big team,
we will work in
depending on the need.
and done. So that works very well in terms of doing that. We work with them on a monthly basis in terms of looking at the plan, meeting to see what the needs are, how we can address that. You see, our developmental years are from birth to 3 years old. We have the most chance to help a child overcome a developmental delay during that period of time.
While they're in that growing, learning
Where
stage.
they're in that growing time. So this is absolutely essential to be able to bring those therapists together, be able to provide that service in their own setting, not in a clinical setting, but right there, whether it's the CP center or their own home.
Great. Well, I know we have some photos, and while we're talking,
Yeah, I was going to say, you can start showing some of the kiddos from the CP Center. One of the other features that I, again, learned about from a layperson standpoint, I mean, one of the things is most of us are blessed to have healthy children, and we don't realize the challenges families face when they have developmental disabilities, and how important it is to identify them early and to create the right program. One of the comments I've again heard in our conversations in our board meeting from our director is how parents appreciate and even caregivers appreciate that we have the CP Center as one location where all the different resources can come in during the course of a classroom setting, because it's like a preschool setting, and so the kids are going to a classroom and all that, but they can be brought out and receive individual services throughout the day in a setting that they're comfortable with and familiar with, and it works well to help address those developmental needs.
And as we see some of the pictures going by here, we can see some of the activities. It looks like you have a lot of different activities that you're doing with the youngsters.
Just like a regular school or preschool program, they have curriculum, they have themes, they dress up for Halloween and for Christmas and the holidays. You know, you see a little one like that, and that may not look like a big deal to us because they're standing upright, but often a child like that may come in and not be able to even lift their head up. And so if they're able to sit in a chair like that's a major accomplishment that, again, we just kind of take for granted sometimes. It is a miracle that happens often at the CP Center.
So you must have a lot of dedicated staff to help those miracles happen and working with the children and getting things done in both cases.
Yeah, very, very dedicated people. So we're very pleased to have to be able to come together because the staff that they have at the CP Center are just very special.
And so that commitment to the child, no matter who the child is in their situation, working with them and working that together. So the many different services, you talk about therapy, the teachers, so they're the physical, the many different aspects of their life they're addressing at the time.
Yeah, and again, I hate to keep bringing up it, just to be aware, I wasn't aware of, you just realize how blessed you are when you have children that either are okay or have special needs. One of the other areas that is very specially focused with the CP Center is the medical side. They can literally face life-threatening situations on a daily basis because of tube feeding and different limitations on their breathing, and the staff is trained to address that on a day in and day out basis. And again, it's a little different than what you and I would face as far as going to work for the day.
Right.
It's not only a learning environment like our public schools are, but with some very special needs where it could be an all hands on deck call.
I'm curious the feedback you receive from parents. A parent probably faces a lot of stress when they have a child who needs some support like this.
They really do, but in it, they have a lot of reservations of letting anyone else but them
Right. They're the
help
parent,
with
they
their
would
child.
be the caregiver.
So to be able to offer these services where someone else can do this so that they're comfortable to let someone like the CP Center do this and work with their child is just tremendous. And then the results are extremely rewarding.
feedback from parents when they see those big moments, the child,
Yeah.
they're making those changes? And
You know, you hear the stories and you just, well, yeah, that's pretty special to hear that. And another thing, a lot of our parents, as Jhan has mentioned, they sometimes have special needs in themselves as basic thing of transportation to be able to get to and from the center.
Right.
And one of the things we've been able to provide over the 60 years and will continue to provide is transportation services. We do have buses that do go into the communities to actually pick up the children, specialized staff and on board to take care of the children, but to pick them up and to take them back home at the end of the day.
Great. So they're able to know that my child's going to get there, they're going to be happy and safe while they're there, working with them, and then they'll bring back home as well.
Yes.
Working together. Well, I know people are watching and probably wonder, well, how are these organizations supported financially? You mentioned looking at the numbers, so let's explain that part of the picture for people. And how we make it.
So, well, Community Support Services is supported through a number of state and federal contracts that are set up specifically designed for to serve persons in a community environment with a developmental disability. Okay. But part of the problems with the not problem with CP Center, but with their funding is that they serve those folks that really fall between the cracks. Many times they do that. So they depend many times on the donations and contracts for what United Way would be one of those. They do. There's a support group that's extremely, supportive. Brad, you have a much
we have a
better
support group that's older than I've been on the board that have been supporting the CP Center for years. They have an annual trail ride in April. Where people from around the country actually come for a trail ride, a horse trail ride, and they raise funds for the CP Center and support us not only at that time but throughout the year for the needs of the center. Like Jhan said, we rely heavily on the United Way and very thankful for the money that we receive from United Way Southwest Missouri, United Way of Carthage, and United Fund in Neosho. So we receive those funding. We do receive some grant funding as well for food service, some of the food service we provide, and some of the transportation.
And also the Jasper County Board for Developmental Disabilities also provides support for the Cerebral Palsy Center as well.
So a parent who has a child with needs, they're probably wondering, is it going to cost me a lot out of pocket to do these types of services? Or is that, being able to help those parents who may be facing limited incomes because they have those?
Many have very limited incomes, and they have extra financial needs because of, their child has those needs, medical especially. And child care is not cheap for anyone, but it becomes sometimes much more difficult if that child has special needs as well.
So you're helping the family out as well.
It is a family affair, and there's a lot of resources available. And some of the times those conversations, even though we talk about finances, how do I get our child enrolled into the center, other issues come up, and I'm sure you've seen this with the CSS, other issues come up that because of our nature of serving the whole family and all that, we're familiar and aware of other services available to them. May not be out of the center or out of CSS, but we could direct them to other resources that can help them as a family unit to advance from where they're at.
So you can network with other agencies in the community
so.
that that can help them in other aspects of their life other than what they're working with along those lines.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the need. Have you kept track as far as numbers? Are we seeing increasing demand? Obviously, supply and demand. But numbers of children needing the services. Is it going numbers versus 10 years ago? People.
Well, when we started with First Steps, the numbers that we had in those full 10 counties was less than 200 persons, and we knew we weren't getting everyone that we needed served.
Right.
Now those numbers have doubled. And we're serving on a day in, day out basis over 500 persons in Southwest Missouri with special needs. Just in the area where the Cerebral Palsy serves, which is Jasper, Newton, McDonald, that number is around 300 just with First Steps kids that we round up handling referrals on each year.
And you've seen the programs grow, I'm sure.
And again, we're the same way. We're licensed to serve 66 children, and we're in the 40s to 50s, and it multiplies over the course of a year's time on that. But yes, unfortunately, the need continues to be there.
They could continue to grow. Now, we talked about the financial support. What about the use of volunteers or people in the community volunteering to help you out? I know a lot of organizations want that type of help as well, in addition to your paid professional staff and things like that.
With community support services, we do not do as much of the volunteer work as because of the contracts that require certain specific training.
You've got limitations, right?
I've got limitations, but with Cerebral Palsy Center, we depend a lot on those volunteers.
We have an Excel spreadsheet to keep track of them.
Well, what are some things the volunteers could be doing, or they do for you then at the center?
We have volunteers come in for any number of things, from like Red Day from Keller Williams, where they'll come in and help do some maintenance and cleanup. Just to sort our food pantry and to put our food into order. We're part of the U.S. Postal Service food drive each year. Right. And then the food comes in quantity. We've got to put them all back up on the shelves. We've got to sort through and make sure that they're current and they don't expire. We've got volunteers that actually go into the classroom with the children. We have several area school programs, nursing students, dental students that come in as part of their program to learn about the CP Center and working with children. And so we have a lot of training situations as well. We have a lot of fundraising events. We go out to the Webb City Farmers Market for Saturday breakfast, and we cook breakfast and serve breakfast. We're at the Christmas event that's on King Jack Park during the wintertime, where the trolley ride is, and we have volunteers throughout, either in the community or in the center, helping with the kids.
So you don't have to be a family member to be a volunteer. You're just somebody who wants to help the center, love kids, and help them out. And tie that together. So if they're interested, they contact the center, say, what can I do to help you?
Absolutely. Contact the CP Center and ask for how they can help out. They'll have an opportunity or two to share with them.
Even if you want to swing a hammer and do some repairs.
That's right. That's right. It doesn't, no previous experiences required. We're able to teach anyone with whatever skill set they have to help our kids.
Well, what are you hearing from the community since you announced in August that we're going to merge? I mean, obviously, we've had a chance to, we're on television now, but meet other organizations, meet parents, and so forth. What kind of feedback are you getting from people?
Yeah. From our side, we've been hearing very positive comments that because we do similar things already, that it's a great combination, and that more nonprofits in the area ought to really look at doing that as well. We round up combining resources to make sure that the dollars getting to the services for those children that it's meant for.
Hearing similar stories?
When we started this conversation earlier this year, we were both curious. What was the response of our respective board members, and what was the response from the community? And first, from the board level, we had a working committee that met, and we were eerily worried that we were missing something because it was going so smoothly. It was just such a natural fit. It really surprised us, quite honestly. And it continues to surprise us because it's been very smooth. As we've had conversations with community partners and in the community, very receptive. As you'd always like to keep yourself forever the way you started out to be 60 years ago, but combining resources is a good move to do to help make it, 1 + 1 is a bigger number than 2.
Now, I know you have a new logo as well. I don't know if we can take a look at the logo that is on the screen. Explain a little bit about the logo and what we have to be your new identity.
Well, we definitely wanted to make sure that we didn't lose our identities from either agency at this time. The Cerebral Palsy Center has a tremendous reputation in the area, and will still be a very succinct program within community support services. So we wanted to make sure that we included that in our design of our new logo. But at the same time, it's a new day. It's a new beginning for children with special needs. So we wanted to come up with a new logo that more represented what we were trying to accomplish.
Almost have the sun rising on a new day.
On a new day with with people in the middle, and then with hands bringing everything around.
Hands of support supporting
Yes.
that and tying that together. So when people start seeing that logo after the first of the year, they'll be able to identify
We
who you
will
are.
see that. They'll start seeing that a lot.
Great, great. Well, what are you looking forward to the most, as far as from your perspectives? After January, we're all together now. What are you most excited about?
Making sure that when I walk in that probably second day, that the kids are all getting served the same way they did, before they went on Christmas break. That's when I know that those are all, everything's smooth, the kids are getting served. It works out great for me.
Consistency in operations.
I know we all worry a little bit when we face change, but change is inevitable in our world. And I think my looking forward is just that we can look back a few months after the change has occurred and say, you know what, this is so much better than what we thought it was going to be. Because I think we truly believe that. We don't know what the details of the story are,
Right.
but it's going to be a great story.
Right. And you'll be working with the parents and the families and getting their feedback as well, and getting their reaction. Have you heard a lot from them prior to, when you made the announcement, someone has a child in either program?
Prior to the announcement, we always have the needs of the referrals of where can we go. And being able to have the resources available for the Cerebral Palsy Center to be able to bring that in along with our own First Steps program. We expect to be able to expand our therapies because we have a large contract of contracted therapists that we have available to us. We want to expand that when we have the funding available to be able to do so.
So in the future, perhaps expanding more than what you're doing currently.
Exactly. So we're very pleased with that.
Great. Well, it sounds like a lot of exciting information. If somebody who's watching tuned in late, how do I find out more? Who do they contact? How do they get more details?
Well, they can contact either office. We're keeping both of those offices. Cerebral Palsy Center in Webb City on Austin Street, and at Community Sports Services, our offices are on Annie Baxter, as is the central office.
So for more information, contact you, and of course, I'm sure we'll hear more publicity when it comes out and let people know that that you have more to offer for our community.
Yeah, we're looking very forward to it. It's a tremendous
Very
opportunity.
excited.
Well, thank you both for coming today. I appreciate your time and sharing some information with the audience.
Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
You're welcome. And I'd like to thank you, the viewers, for joining us this week on Newsmakers. I'm Judy Stiles. Hope you can join me again next week at the same time on the station. We'll see you then.